Much like Zuck, we're about to get a little meta here. I've been building something in the background, kind of brainstorming, trying to figure out how to bring it out into the world. And I wanted to give a little sneak peek of what I'm doing. So you're going to want to stay tuned for the end because it has this delicious ending that honestly, I didn't plan out when I started. I just recorded myself as I started to code and it worked out beautifully. Welcome back to Listen to Leo. Today's video, I wanted to share a new project. So I've been working on the idea of a build in public coach. Now, I offer some build in public coaching to a couple people, and I think it is an incredibly powerful mechanism. The problem is, I can't do it at scale. It tends to be very expensive because it is time consuming on my part. And so I'm not looking to get a whole bunch of clients all at once. But I do like the idea of taking all of my knowledge and experience and distilling it down into something that is accessible and affordable to the average person. And so I said, okay, let's build a chatbot. And I started coding it. So I opened up a new Jupyter notebook and I went to work. So let's dig in and see what I did and what I was able to accomplish. Okay. So, first things first, I want to describe what I'm trying to build. And really, this is for me to just get an idea of the various steps I need to take and walk through it and just really understand what it is exactly I'm building. And so, I want to start off here with kind of this first phase. And so I'm going to assume I've got a web app. I have a new user who signs up and they're dropped in. Now, with a normal chatbot implementation, you'll just throw them into the chat and they can start chatting with the AI, and that's fantastic. But I want to take a slightly different approach here. I want to ask them a very specific set of questions to begin with because I want to get some background information on them. Now, I might need to do this a little more spread out. I know as I try to onboard new users, this might be a little clunky and kind of time consuming, but we'll kind of see how it works out. I at least want to get these questions laid out so that I know what I want to ask them to begin. So we're going to start off with what is the user building? I think this is hopefully the easiest thing to answer. And, you know, kind of one of the most important pieces of context that I'm going to need, just so I have an idea of what they're trying to do. Um, and next, I want to get an idea of their strengths and their weaknesses. So these are self identified, and that's not always incredibly accurate, but it gives me a good idea of how they view themselves. And, one of the things with being a coach is I want to unlock people's capabilities in a way that is easy for them. Quite honestly, if you've listened to any of the interviews I've done in the past where I've talked about my approach and things like that, I really do like to focus on strengths primarily, um, because I think weaknesses tend to be covered by other people. And when you're talking build in public, for a lot of people who need the help that I'm providing, it's going to be people early on in their journey who probably don't have a team. And so, starting out, go to your strengths, see what you can do really well, and go from there. Um, and kind of in a similar vein, I want to get an idea of how they like to talk about what they're doing. Are they on Twitter? Are they on YouTube? Do they have a podcast? What format are they most comfortable in? Again, I want to make this easy. Um, and if there's something that they want to do but aren't necessarily doing, I have an approach for that too. Um, but in this initial step, I just want to get an idea of, what they're interested in trying. Um, Next up is kind of this question of how their story in life has really affected what they're building. I think this is a really powerful tool that people can use when they're building in public because it is very much a part of who they are. And so that's going to come through in what they share. And it's going to make a huge difference in their ability to communicate what exactly they're doing and the emotions that they can generate um, while they talk about it. And I think that is a really hugely impactful way to go about this. And so from there, I want to kind of get an idea of where they are in their project. Like, is it something that they are actively building? Did they just start? Are they established? So we'll kind of see there. That maybe not as important, but it's a good idea to just have that. And then finally, I want to figure out what they're dreaming of as far as how big this can be. A lot of times you'll hear this referred to as a big, hairy, audacious goal. That's what I've experienced in some of the programs that I've gone through. And it really is interesting to take an idea of like how big you think something can be, because especially if you're going into the, if you have the idea of potentially raising money for it, you do have to sell investors on, the possibilities for it. And so just having that in mind as you build is also a good directional navigator for you. And so I do like to factor that in. Oh, I also do want to store this in a vector database. Chroma just released a new version. I started poking at it. Not sure if I want to include that yet. We'll see, because LangChain doesn't quite support it, but probably not going to focus on that for this piece anyway. Okay, cool. And then so based on that, I've got to pick a starting point for the conversation. Might start with what they're going to share that day. And then, so let's go ahead and begin by kind of coming up with the system prompt here. And so when I'm developing a system prompt, I like to give the system an identity. And so in this case, I'm going to say, like, you are a build in public coach. Now, the AI may or may not understand exactly the concept of build in public, and that's okay. But it kind of gives it a framework, and I'm going to include a few more details. And then I give it a goal. So want to achieve their goals by sharing their story, their progress, their challenges, and their successes. So that's kind of what building in public is, right? And so this kind of gives the AI a bit more context. Next, I'm going to paste in my values. And so these are the values that I have on my coaching website. And basically, it is how I define building in public in very specific ways. And one of the things I've been kind of playing around with is using values as a guiding force for AI, bots and prompts and everything like that. Like, I really want to focus in on like how can we set the guidelines based on what we want to accomplish. Cool. So next up, I'm going to start including the answers from the questions above. And so, here's what the client is building: biggest strengths, biggest challenges, the format they like to use, the story, progress, big, hairy, audacious goal. Cool. That's all in there. All right. So right now, I want to give my answers to the questions above just as a starting point for what I'm doing here. And so, all right. So for my project, I'm going to say I'm building a chatbot that can act as a build in public coach, and it'll be based off the coaching methods that I use with my clients, as I stated, right? For my strengths, let's see. So I'm very strong technically, very experienced coder. I've also been a content creator for a few years now, focused a lot on long form writing, starting to do YouTube and podcasts, but I'll just say fair bit of experience. Challenges. So something I'm really not good at is cold outreach and traditional marketing approaches. I also have this really bad habit of deciding that I don't need to follow traditional approaches for kind of anything I do. And I want to rebuild everything from the ground up, first principles thinking and all of that, which is great, but it's exhausting. Quite honestly, there's just not enough time to do that with every single thing. Sometimes I just got to convince myself that it's okay to take traditional approaches and roll with them, because there's a lot of other stuff that matters more that I need to be focusing my energy in. Okay. Format. Yeah, I do like to write both long and short form and record podcast episodes and YouTube videos. So I kind of do a little bit of everything there for my story. So, so I'm an ADHD and autistic software engineer. I quit my job during the pandemic because I couldn't stand the corporate grind and tried to launch a startup that failed miserably because I did every single thing wrong. And a lot of this was due to the fact that the stuff I found online was outdated and just not particularly helpful. And so I had the wrong idea of what a startup was, what it meant to launch one. And a lot of what I do now revolves around the fact that I want to make it easier for people to figure out better ways of doing things, perhaps a little less risky, not nearly as stressful, and just make it easier for everybody. I really do believe that everybody can benefit from building in public. And I think it's going to be very, very important as a way to build trust with, potential clients, users, whatever. It really depends on the business, but building trust is going to be a huge piece online going forward. We have a lot of stuff happening with AI. It's going to make a lot of things very murky and hard to, sift through. And so trust is going to play a huge part in this. And building in public, to me, means building trust with your audience, with potential users, etc. Okay, so progress. So it's a new project. Haven't officially announced anything. I did tease it a little bit on Twitter, but mostly I want to show it off in public as I build it because I think using it to guide what I do as a way to show it off is a pretty cool idea, which was kind of the main idea with this video. Okay, and my goal. So I want to create a universally available product. I want to create a universally available product that helps anyone be able to build in public without worrying about the best way to do it. This will give us the ability to actually fill in these variables using LangChain, and we'll be able to kind of, package it all up into this template we can use. Okay, so let's go ahead and set up the chain now. And so I do like to use GPT-4 here. Okay, cool. That's configured. And then I can put it to the correct prompt. All right, now I want to predict the output. Actually, I need to rethink the way I do the variables here. Because let's see, so it's a chat bot. So actually I need to, let's see, update the model that I'm using to a chat model. And one of the things with chat models on these types of chains, they actually take variables of history and human input. Okay, need to figure out how to kind of have different types of variables. All right, so it looks like what we actually need to do is use partial variables. So this is a way to say hey, here are some of the variables in the prompt. And then I'm going to separate those from the idea of input variables. Excellent. Okay, so now we've got the chat model in our chain, and we want to predict this based on the idea that I want to come up with a clever way to announce my new project. Okay, well, I think we're all set here. So let's go ahead and kick it off with the input that I want to come up with a clever way to announce my new project. Something I'm playing with. As I said, I haven't really announced it yet, but I wanted to figure out what we can do here. All right, and the output. So that's great. Announcing your new project in a clever way can definitely create a buzz and attract attention. Given strengths and preferred content formats, here's a suggestion. Okay, so blog post and article. I did say I like to write. That's a pretty good idea. Journey so far, learnings, and why you decided to build this. Okay, that's pretty cool. Make sure to include your personal story and the challenges you face. This will make it relatable and authentic. See, I love that. A podcast episode. That's pretty good. Technical aspects, vision, how it can help others. Great. YouTube video. Create a YouTube video where you get a sneak peek of the chatbot. This could be a demo or a behind the scenes look at how you're building it. Okay, so true story. I didn't plan that. I started recording as I was writing this code because I thought it would be kind of a cool way to piece together some footage for what I'm doing. And I had the idea of doing it that way, but the fact that my build in public coach gave me the same idea that I had myself tells me that I am on the right track with what I'm doing here, and it is aligning with what I'm trying to achieve. So that's pretty cool. And then social media teasers, that's pretty good too. I do like that. But remember, the key is to share your journey and not just the product. And that piece is huge. So connect with your audience on a deeper level and build a community around your project. Countdown on social media, I kind of like that. That might be fun. But this piece here at the end, I think, really resonates with me. Remember, it's not about doing things the standard way, but about doing what works best for you and your audience. So feel free to tweak these suggestions as per your needs. Good luck. I really do think I'm on the right track with this prompt and how it works, because this very much feels like the suggestions that I would give based on the answers I wrote above. And when it comes to AI prompting, that's a big piece for me. I like to get things that really resonate with what I would do myself. And I think, it's really easy to create a bunch of content with AI that sounds very AI generated, and that's not particularly useful. Like, I think there's a place for it in some cases, but the projects that I work on, I really do try to tap into what makes me unique, what makes my thought process unique. I really like building my process into what I create, and so as I showed here, the kind of questions that I ask, the things that I want to dig into with clients, and use that as a basis along with my values. Um, for me, those are great ways to make sure that what you're doing with AI truly aligns with what you were trying to accomplish. And so um, that's it for this first video on Build in Public Coach. CoachBot, I don't know. I have to come up maybe with a good name for it. But yeah, I think this is a great way to really capture what I'm trying to do.